Hi, I'm Dan Aubuchon, and welcome back to the Joy of Tennis Teaching. I hope everybody had a good holiday. We took a little break from putting out some YouTube videos, but while we were out, I was thinking a lot about the goals for this channel in 2025. I hope we can reach out and spread the word more and get the word out to more tennis players as well as tennis coaches. I had an interesting experience this week. Back in August, I read a small article in Racket Sports Industry magazine about a gentleman in Sacramento area who is doing tennis programs for the blind and visually impaired. Selfishly, I wanted to reach out and find out about these programs because, well, I miss being able to be on court and I miss being able to hit the ball. I luckily can get out occasionally working with players that I know, but I can't really hit the ball that well. The one wheelchair clinic I went to, I was fine with mini tennis, but as soon as I got further away, the visual handicap made it impossible to hit the ball. So anyway, I had some trouble finding this gentleman. His name is Samir Mahir. Samir, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. If not, give me a call and let me know how to do it right, because your name is going to come up often in this coming year. Anyway, I reached out and Samir was nice enough to call me and fill me in on a little bit about blind and visually impaired tennis. And while I was excited about the possibilities for myself to be able to play, it became pretty obvious that my background and skills and experience were tailor-made to sort of help spread the word about this variety of special program. PBI was always very, very involved in special programs, and I know Dave Kensler did some tennis clinics with the blind in Honolulu, and all the way back to 1979 in my training program, we actually had a young woman who was completely blind who came out on the court and took her sandals off because she could feel the lines with her feet better that way. But we didn't have the technology with the balls or any idea to how to make it into an actual sport. And with Samir's help, I now have seen some of the possibilities, and I've been to the website for the International Blind Tennis Association that has chapters around the world. So this isn't a US-based thing. This is something that all of you out there in the world can help me spread the word, and we particularly want to get more coaches involved. So anyway, that was the big exciting news that happened for me this week. And as I said, keep your eye on this space and you'll learn more about tennis for the blind and visually impaired. But let's get on to the topic for this week. This week and for a while in the coming weeks, we're going to really focus on a concept that Peter always called teaching people how to be their own coach. What we want to do with this how to be your own coach idea is don't make the student dependent on the teacher always making the corrections and telling you what to do and how to, correct yourself. The student has to learn these things. And I remember once when I was a speaker, I believe it was in New York at the USTA annual tennis education conference right before the US Open. I did a speech and it went very well, and afterwards you always get some of the people who want to ask you questions. So I was standing off to the side of the room where I had done my presentation and was answering questions for a group of people, and there was a young man who was kind of hanging back to the side. And I could tell by his body language he wanted to ask me something, but when I kept pointing at him, he kind of wanted to wait and wanted to be the last one. So when everybody finished, this young tennis teacher and I had a very interesting conversation. that I've never forgotten. He came to me and he thanked me for the presentation, and he said, this is the second time I've seen you speak, but I've seen Peter Burwash speak a number of times, and I bought the Tennis for Life book, and I really think what you guys teach is great, but I don't teach it to my students. And it seemed odd that he was such a fan of our approach to teaching tennis. Why wouldn't he teach it to the students? And he let me know that he taught in a fairly small area with a limited number of students, and he was afraid that if he taught the PBI concepts, his students would improve too fast and he would be left with no income, no students. And it made me laugh, but sadly, although there aren't many coaches who are honest enough to admit it like this young coach did, there are a lot of coaches who know their students aren't improving, and they just keep repeating the same lessons over and over again. And they like having the students dependent on them. The students enjoy the interaction with the coach, so it becomes this stagnant relationship where you're just repeating the same things, but you're not really improving. You're not really making progress. My best student-teacher relationships have always involved growth. They've always involved growth of the student because that gives me an opportunity to teach them new and higher level things. So I remember one discussion once with a student that I had had for many, many years, and he goes, I can't believe we keep going and I keep learning new things all the time. So I tried to explain that to the young man from Seattle who was asking me these questions. I said, look, you've got it wrong. When your students improve more, they'll want more. It becomes addictive. The learning process and the growth process becomes something that they really want to do more of. And oftentimes your lesson business will grow a great deal by teaching how to be your own coach. So that's the idea. I go back, I've told this story before, where I arrived in PBI training and I had a huge collection of tennis books. I read pretty much everything I could find on the art of teaching tennis by every coach, and I showed Peter my big collection of tennis books, and Peter kind of laughed at me and he said, that's what's wrong with tennis. There are too many books telling people how to play. But then the author John Tullius was able to convince Peter that he could write a book that would not just tell people how to play. It wouldn't tell them how to play at all, but it would tell them how to understand the game of tennis. And through that understanding, it would teach them how to be their own coach. So that's where we're going to start this year and really dig into this how to be your own coach. When I was at Camp Takaho, I used to make it a point to try to go to all of the first-time classes because I wanted to get the campers to understand that this process, this learning process, was a 50-50 deal, and that the coaches would do their job, but the students had to do their job if we were going to be 100% successful that summer. And I would always start off with the same question: what does a coach do? And I got many, many interesting answers over the years, but probably the most famous answer was from a young boy named Ethan, who told me that a coach basically sits on his ass and drinks Pepsi, which made me laugh to no end and wonder what kind of tennis programs Ethan had gone through before. But we didn't do any of the sitting or the drinking of the Pepsi. But what we wanted to do was teach people how to be their own coach. And when you narrow it down with all the answers that you could get, what a coach really does is a coach encourages you when you're on the right track. He praises and encourages you when you're doing things correctly. And he helps guide you and correct you when you're making mistakes. And that gets us to the most important thing, what's a mistake? And that's where we're going to start next week. Thanks very much for your time and enjoying and watching this. Please smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and let's share it. Let's see if we can really grow this channel in 2025. Thanks very much, and be joyful.